Hello everyone, my name is Waffle and welcome to the second episode of Strats Explained, Magically Easy, a video series where I explain how and why different strats and glitches people use in speedruns work. The last time we had a poll and you chose a very interesting, well, at least in my opinion, topic for today's video. To make things easier to understand, I'll tell you a little story. In a 100% speedrun of GTA 3, you have to complete one side mission called Taxi Driver. The goal is to deliver 100 passengers to their destinations, and as you can guess, it takes a lot of time if you do it casually. Speedrunners don't like to go slow, so they use different strats and glitches to make things faster. For example, back in 2013, it's been already known that you could use any car for this mission. Moreover, people found out that you could start Taxi Driver twice, so how we call it these days, dupe it. It was a big game changer because in this state, when you deliver one passenger, the game counts it as 2 fares, so you basically complete the mission twice as fast. And the setup is extremely easy as well. Get in an emergency vehicle, start holding the button that starts the side mission, in my case it's caps lock. Get in a taxi while still holding caps lock. Get in your vehicle of choice and let go of caps lock. If done right, you'll see 2 pedestrians willing to get in your, taxi? Unfortunately, you will quickly notice that something is wrong with the game. If you look at the radar, you'll see that there is a lot of new blips, and the worst part is you cannot get rid of the pink ones. At all. The only way is to load an older save. Well, speedrunners don't care about aesthetics, but there are more problems. If you play long enough, you'll see that blips stop appearing after a certain point. Pay attention to my minimap, right now my destination is not on it. It's not a big deal for speedrunners either, at least in this mission, but think of something like Evidence Dash. There you have to chase a bobcat that spawns in a fixed position, but drives randomly, and looking for a car without a blip on it, well, it's gonna take a while. Let's go back to Taxi Driver. Unfortunately, there is no way to complete this side mission in one go, because pedestrians stop spawning after a while. This forced speedrunners to go back to their garage and redo the glitch again. Obviously, it was still faster than doing this side mission normally. So why did I tell you all of this? What I want you to know is that after you finally finish doing Taxi Driver this way, your minimap is filled with blips, and that causes a few interesting and strange glitches in 2 missions. We will start with the negative one. In Bait you have to lure 3 cars with Colombians into a trap where Yakuzas are waiting for you and willing to help you deal with them. But if your radar is filled with blips, then Yakuzas start attacking you too, and they have quite powerful weapons right here. I should mention that it doesn't make the mission impossible to complete, and the easiest way I can think of is to use a bulletproof vehicle. For example, the Patriot Ray gives you in his last mission, but speedrunners thought it was quite slow, so they decided to do Taxi Driver in the very end of the run, when Bait was already completed. But this means they had to do Taxi Driver in Staunton, which is slower than in Portland. The reason for that is simple. During that part of the game, a lot of gangs hate you in Portland, and Leonis have deadly shotguns, so I wouldn't go there either. Now let's look at the positive effect. In this game we have a mission called Uzi Rider, where you have to go to Harbor Heights and kill 10 Diablo gang members. But if your radar is filled with blips when you start the mission, you'll get a nice surprise. As soon as the kills counter appears on your screen, you'll notice that the value isn't 0, but a very big number. So the guys in the car are like, yep, that's enough, let's go back home. This strat is actually used in an individual level speedrun of this mission, and I also use this strat in my pacifist playthrough. More information about this project can be found in the description. Okay, now we looked at the effects, and to be fair, nothing seems connected, right? Where do we even start? Okay, let's remember what we know for now. And there's one thing we know for sure, and that is, weird stuff happens if our map is filled with blips. Okay, maybe we should look for the function that creates those blips. And for that we're gonna look at the source code for mission scripts, and I'm using gtamodding.ru once again. Let's search for the word blip and let's go to the second Yardis mission, which is Uzi Rider. Let's scroll a bit down until we find the next match, and here it is. Add blip for court. Is it the right blip though? Is it the one that shows like Harbor Heights on the map? Let's see, what's that? That's let's drive. So this is the line that Yardi says at the very beginning of the mission, so this must be it. This is the correct line, so we should look at the code for this command. And here it is. First of all, we find ground Z for coord, but we don't really care about the coordinate. Then there is a useless call because it doesn't save the returned value anywhere. And the line we are interested in is this one. Here we have the setCoordBleep function call. Let's see what's inside. So here's the for loop. Let me quickly explain how they work. First of all, we have a variable, and it starts from 0. On each iteration, it increases the value by 1. Those two pluses mean +1. And on each iteration we execute everything that's inside of the loop, so these two lines. As soon as this condition returns false, we get out of the loop and continue executing everything that is after the loop. What is this condition? Well, it's next bleep, so our counter is less than num_reader_bleeps. Num_reader_bleeps is 32, so now we know that in GTA 3 the maximum amount of bleeps you can have is 32. Great, let's see what's this. So this is basically a condition that checks for something. What do we have inside? This is an array. Array is basically a container for elements, in our case for bleeps, so this is an array of bleeps. In square brackets you specify the index of an element you want to access. Indexing in C and C++ starts from 0, so in total we have 32 elements from 0 to 31. So if you want to access the second element, you specify index 1, because the first element has index 0. Great. So far, it's easy. Next, we check every element and see if it's in use. So basically, if it is already used as a bleep or not. If it's not used, this exclamation mark means not, then we break. Break means get out of the loop, no matter if this condition returns false or not. So as soon as we find something, we break out of the loop and continue executing here. So essentially what this code does, it looks for the first element in the bleeps array that is still not used. As soon as it finds it, we get out of the loop and we use this element to create a new bleep. Cool. So far it all makes sense. But what happens if all of our elements are already used, so we already have 32 bleeps on the map? As I said, the loop is gonna go 30, 31, 32nd element is already a bleep, then it becomes 32, this condition becomes false, because is 32 less than 32? Well, no, it's equal, so return false. And we continue executing here. And look what we do. We use our array once again, and we specify the index, but now it's 32, which is out of our array already. So we basically overflow the array, we access the memory that doesn't belong to the array of bleeps. It belongs to something else, we don't know what it is so far. But we use this memory, and what is even worse, we change it. Like we set the type, the color, coordinates, but it doesn't make sense, it's not a bleep. We basically overwrite some data where it doesn't belong to. You see? So this is a huge mistake, like overflowing stuff is always bad. And unfortunately, Rockstar did not fix it in GTA 3. Like, they made this huge mistake. How do we fix it though? Well, we are lucky because they fixed it in Vice City. All we need to do is add those two lines. What do they do? So after the loop we check if next bleep, so our counter, is equal to num_reader_bleeps. And if so, it means that okay, all of our slots are already in use, so we can't create a new bleep. So we basically just return. Return means get out of the function without doing anything that is after the return. So as soon as you hit return, you basically get out of the function. So now we know there is an error in the function, but there is still no connection to the effects we saw in missions. As the second clue, we can use the counter that appears during Uzi Rider. Remember that the value wasn't 0? That's strange. Let's see if we can find out why. For that we go back to the mission script and let's scroll a bit down. Here's the part called the hit and here's our counter. Then we have a loop that goes if body count ERD2 less than 10, then we do everything that's inside. What is body count ERD2? Let's search for it, and here it is. It's basically a sum of dry by total 1 and dry by total 2. If we look a bit higher, there is our dry by total 1 and dry by total 2. And the command that we are using is get num of models killed by player with parameters pet gang Diablo A and pet gang Diablo B. Great, so this command probably counts how many certain models or pets of certain models we killed, and in our case we care about both Diablo models, then we sum them up, and if it's more than 10 then we continue with the mission. Let's see if we can find this same command in the other mission that I showed you earlier, which is bait. For that we go back to this screen, choose the second part of Asuka's missions, here's bait, and let's see if we can find it. And yeah, this time parameters are pet gang equals A and pet gang equals B, and it turns out if you kill more than 2 Yakuzas, then the rest that is still alive are gonna treat you as their threat. So now we finally found some connection between those two missions, but it still doesn't tell us how bleeps are involved in all of this. Perhaps the answer is hidden in the source code of this command. Okay, it's actually pretty simple, only one function call. And here we just return some value from an array called registered kills. We use our parameter as model ID. Using all of that, we can assume that this array contains the number of pedestrians of each model that we've killed, right? But let's see, maybe there's more to it. First of all, we can check the length of this array, and actually it contains 200 elements. That's a lot. I don't think we have that many ped models in this game. So let's check what uses this array. For that I press right mouse button and find all references. We are interested in something that changes values, for example this one. The function is called register car blown up by player. We use the vehicle, we get its model index, so basically model ID, and then we use the ID as an index for the array. We take the current value and we increase it by 1. We can find a similar line in the function called register killed by player. It's right there, and this time we also get the model index ID, but this time for our victim, so for some pedestrians that we've killed, and we increase it by 1. Okay, so to put it simply, this array contains the number of vehicles of each models that we've destroyed and the number of pedestrians of each models that we've killed. Of course, these models' IDs don't intersect with each other. So in Uzi Rider we take the number of Diablos with model A that we've killed, we take the number of Diablos with model B that we've killed, we add those two values together, and if the sum is more than 10, then we continue with the mission. It's worth mentioning that of course each time you start the mission, the counter is reset, because otherwise, well, you could kill a lot of Diablos before the mission, start the mission, and basically complete the current objective right away. But there's one more question: how is this registered kills array connected to the bleeps array? And here's when the fun part starts. And to make it easier to understand, I'll introduce a few programming terms, and I'll also talk a little about the structure of a program. For that I wrote a little code snippet. As you can see, it's very easy. All it does is a plus b and then print the result, which is in our case 10. But let's look at these two lines because we have to understand the difference between them. It's very important. This one is int a. It basically says define a variable with name a of type int. Int is short for integer, so 0, 1, 19, 68, etc. As you can see, we don't assign any values to it, so as soon as the program starts, it knows that we have a variable a, and every time we use it, it just says, okay, put 0 here. This is not a mistake, this is a standard behavior, and this is why we don't get any errors when we run the program. This line, however, is different. As you can see, we define a variable with name b of type int, and we also assign a value of 10. So as soon as the program starts, it knows that the value of variable b is 10. This is called initialization, and all of the variables like this end up in data section of the program, because the program needs to store the name of the variable, the type, and the value. All of these static uninitialized variables like our a end up in a different section called BSS, or block starting symbol, or how some people joke, better safe space. And why is that? Because we only need to know the name and the length or the type of the variable. Everything that is in BSS, the program just says, okay, I know it's 0. We don't need to store all of these zeros. We just store it in a different section, and then the program knows it's 0. And if you remember, both of our arrays, the one for blips and the one for the counter of killed models and destroyed models, I guess, they don't have initial values, so they both end up in BSS. And let's take a look at this section. Of course, we're not going to look at the whole section because it's huge. We're only going to look at the relevant part that is here on your screen. Here we have the array of blips, and as you can see, right after it we have a registered kills array. So it turns out that these two arrays are adjacent in memory, which means that every time we overflow the blips array, we are actually overwriting some data in the registered kills. Obviously, we're not overwriting the whole array because it's quite big, we are only overwriting the beginning of it, but it is still enough to overwrite the number of killed Diablos and Yakuzas. So, for example, in terms of Uzi Rider, we start the mission, everything in registered kills is reset, so all of the values are 0. The game tries to make a blip for Herbernheis, and since our map was already filled with blips, it can't, it just overwrites these zeros. And it turns out that it overrides the number of killed Diablos. So when we get to Herbernheis, the game thinks, oh wait, he killed a lot of Diablos already, I guess we can progress. If something is still unclear, let's look at an analogy. I imagine that the memory is an inventory from a video game. And you know that a pistol, for example, takes up 6 slots and ammo for it only 2. It is very similar because every element in registered kills array takes up 2 slots. 2 bytes, and you don't really need much more because, well, the only thing we store is a number. Blips are a completely different story. We already know that they have type, color, position, etc, so they need a lot of space, and they take up 48 bytes, which is, well, 24 times more than an element in registered kills. Memory is continuous, there are no gaps between elements, which is why when we overflow the blips array, we overwrite the data in the beginning of registered kills. And if I remove the safe house icon right now, you'll see that we successfully override the number of killed Diablos and the number of killed Yakuzas. Now I hope it all makes sense. Alright, I think it's time to sum it all up. First of all, we are very lucky that the developers made a huge mistake that allows us to overflow the array of blips. Second, we are extremely lucky that the linker during the compilation process put those two variables right next to each other in this particular order. For your information, this section contains hundreds, if not thousands, of variables, so the odds were very, very low. And finally, we are lucky that the counters of Diablos and Yakuzas models are in the very beginning of the array, so they were overwritten. To be fair, this glitch should not exist, just like this video, but they both do, and I hope it was interesting to watch. This time I have 2 challenges for you. One of them is easy, and the other one is hard. Command get num of models killed by player is used in more than 2 missions. Unfortunately, we don't get any interesting effects, that's why those missions are not in the video. But can you name them? That was an easy one, of course. The hard one goes like this. If you were observant enough, then you would spot that the Herbernheis blip actually appeared on my minimap. In fact, when I started the mission, I only had 31 blips. So the question is quite simple, why did I still get the overflow effect? I'm gonna give you a few hints. First of all, the mission at this point does not create any more blips, so you don't have to look at the mission script, it's not gonna help you at all. And the second hint was actually hidden in this video already. Did you find it? In any case, if you have any ideas, I'm waiting for your explanations. This time we're only gonna have 2 winners, so you better be quick with your submissions. As always, I'm going to heart the correct answers if I'm seeing them for the first time. Okay, I think this is it from me for today. If you still have any questions, don't be shy to ask them in the comments, I'll try to help you. Once again, it would be nice to get some feedback, what did you like, what you didn't. It really is important to me and it might help me to improve for the next videos. And don't forget that you can always suggest a topic for the next episode. This time I'm accepting instapasses too. But be warned, if you thought that this video was hard for you, then you're not ready for instapasses yet. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you don't want to miss the next episode, consider subscribing. My name is Wofil, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you the next time.